noche sueño contigo. Se muele con cacahuate, se muele también el pan. Se muele la almendra seca, se muele el chile y también la sal. Se muele de chocolate, se muele la canela. Se muele pimienta y clavo, se muele la molendera. Se muele ese cacahuate, se muele también el pan. Se muele la almendra seca, se muele el chile y también la sal. Se muele ese chocolate, se muele la canela. Se muele pimienta y clavo, se muele la molendera.
Hello, everyone. We're just waiting for everyone to finish joining the conversation.
En Oaxaca, con agua es el chocolate. Cuentan que en Oaxaca, con agua es el chocolate. Dicen que en la fiesta, torito se ha de quemar. Dicen que en la fiesta, torito se ha de quemar. Para que haga su manda por la pasión de soledad. Para que haga su manda por la pasión de soledad. Mi querida soledad, me va a guisar un molito por el cielo.
Hello, hello, welcome, bienvenidos, bienvenidas, bienvenides a todas y todos. Welcome everybody. Please be sure to choose your language in the menu, in the bar in Zoom. Por favor, escojan su idioma. Tenemos interpretación al español. Escojan su canal en el menú principal de Zoom. Tenemos a Sara Holguín traduciendo. Please choose your language as you arrive. This meeting is also being recorded, and it's not technically a webinar, so all your little squares are here, and if you don't want to appear, your image to appear, you can go ahead and turn off your video. Esta sesión la estamos grabando. Técnicamente no es un webinar, entonces están sus cuadritos con sus caras ahí. Entonces, si no quieren salir, apaguen su video. And please mute your mics if they're not already muted until the Q&A time. Por favor, también pongan sus micrófonos en apagado para que podamos escuchar. Va a haber oportunidad de hacer preguntas más al ratito. So welcome. I'm going to transition to English now and let Sara translate. So let's go ahead and go on to our next slide. Oh, that was what I was saying earlier. That's the button. So ese es el botón if you haven't seen it already. Next slide, please. So let's start with introducing the team that's on camera and also behind the scenes. I'm Ruby Orozco Santos, she, they pronouns. I'm Director of Organizational Storytelling and Development at La Semilla Food Center. And I'll let Julieta introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julieta Saucedo, she, her pronouns, and I am Farm Education Coordinator.
And behind the scenes, we have Michelle Carrion. She's La Semilla Food Center's food justice storyteller and was our DJ a few moments ago. She's now running the slides and monitoring the chat. And also behind the scenes, already busy, is Sara Olin, already busy translating. So in this session, we're gonna cover just some background about La Semilla and how these fellowships came to be, and then give you some details on each of the two training, fellowship opportunities that we have, the Farmer Fellowship Training Program and the Chihuahuan Desert Cultural Fellowship. Hopefully we'll clarify and give you a lot of information, maybe answer some questions that you're arriving with already. If there are any questions that you still have as we present, please type them into the chat, and Michelle will be bringing them forward when it's time for questions. You'll also have a chance to unmute if you prefer to ask that way. And then we'll conclude with sharing contact information in case you have questions after this session. So let's go ahead and go on. So I'm sharing with you a little bit about La Semilla Food Center and how these fellowships came to be. So let's go on to the next slide to give you a sense in case you need some, where are we, contextual grounding. So La Semilla is located in what some of us currently know as the Paso del Norte region. Let's go to the next slide and zoom in a little bit. The region includes the furthest west point of Texas, wedged in between Mexico and New Mexico, and current political, geopolitical boundaries aside. This is Piro land, it's Tampacho Manso land. This is the land of Isleta del Sur Pueblo. And these soils have been and continue to be tended by Native people. This land and its inhabitants have experienced multiple waves of displacement, as well as the extractive harm of industrial agriculture. So the story of this land is layered, it's complex, it's tied with our own story, and we're still writing it by living it. And we have opportunities to move forward together in ways that bring tangible joy and abundance and tangible repair from past harms to all members of the ecosystem, human and non-human. And let's go on to the next one. So La Semilla Food Center has been stewarding donated farmland, specifically rehabilitating the soil in a 1-acre farm for over 10 years. And the farm is the heart of our organization. Our farm and offices are located in Anthony, New Mexico. Our mission is to cultivate a fair and sustainable food system, and that requires work at multiple levels. It also requires us to integrate equity and justice in decision-making and programming. So let's go on to the next slide so you can get a sense of the different work areas that we have. We have 6 now work areas. Community farm being our heart, Farm Fresh program, which helps distribute produce from small farmers across the region and provides technical assistance, food safety training, edible education, works in the schools in New Mexico and Texas, a policy program advocating for food justice at the local, regional, and national level. Community education program hosts intergenerational community spaces of sharing those amazing, inherently healthy food traditions of our communities. And storytelling is the newest formalized work area at La Semilla. And let me see, I lost my place. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna deepen a little bit into the farm and the storytelling piece, because these are the 2 programs that are hosting both fellowships. So a little bit about our farming practice. Like I mentioned earlier, La Semilla and our community members have been tending this land, and in turn being tended by this land for more than 10 years. The farm team uses the principles of agroecology to produce abundant harvests that are distributed across the region. Farm Director and La Semilla Executive Director, Cristina Dominguez, had to leave the region to join a farming training program years ago. And she's not alone. A lot of people have had to leave to train and often end up training in other ecosystems and then come back and have to kind of relearn and adapt and experiment in the desert ecosystem. Often when people leave, they might be the only person of color in a training program, maybe the only woman. There's a lack of BIPOC-led training opportunities, especially in years past. And here in the region, there have been trainings offered occasionally. We haven't had a multi-year training offered in a while. The need for a desert-adapted agroecological farmer training that increases representation and opportunities for underrepresented farmers has been constant and clear. Also, a shared need for mentorship, right? One of our colleagues in the region reached out to Cristina about training opportunities, a woman farmer in the region, and that sparked the idea of not only putting together the training, but integrating local small farmers as mentors and to really co-create a diverse network of agroecological desert farmers in the region. And so last year, the first farming fellowship was launched after more than 10 years of deep practice and deep relationship building. And now we're recruiting for our second cohort. And Julieta will be going over this fellowship in a moment. But first, I want to also give you a little background on the cultural side. So let's go ahead and go there. To the next slide. Thank you. So on the cultural side, cultural practice is integral to foodways, as you probably all know already. And culture and arts and advocacy have been part of La Semilla from the beginning. The storytelling department has been formalized in the last few years to house our efforts a little more intentionally, to focus our intention to increase connection with the Chihuahuan desert ecosystem, to uplift the inherently healthy traditions of this region, and to shift power. So we do so through respectful story gathering and sharing, through some maybe archival research, and really with the aim to hold up a mirror to the community first and foremost and reflect the brilliance that exists here back to the community itself, and also sharing our stories beyond our region. A couple of recent achievements we'll share in the next slides are a zine about the history of US agriculture policy as seen from our perspective in the region. 2 years in the making, it just came out in August of last year. And then the next slide will show a couple of murals that were inspired by regional food waste stories that we gathered in the fall of 2020. I don't know who's here, but some of you may have been there in those story gathering sessions. So over the years, having a bird's eye view, at a regional level, we've been seeing people already engaged in powerful cultural practice. And the Cultural Fellowship is an opportunity to directly support and amplify the practice of these folks and to strengthen the regional network of earth-based arts, culture, and advocacy. So we're launching this fellowship for the first time. We're really excited. And a shared vision leads us to this moment of recruiting for both fellowships. So before we start going into the details of each one, I just want to acknowledge the women and femmes of color in leadership at La Semilla and in relationship with small farmers across the region who brought this vision to life, who worked diligently to get the fellowships dreamed up, shaped, funded, and now implemented. So these projects are funded through a combination of grants, including the USDA Beginning Farmers and Ranchers Development Program, the Kellogg Foundation, and the National Association of Latino Arts and Culture, and the Ford Foundation through the Border Narrative Change Grant Program. So with that, I'll hand it over to Julieta to go over the Farming Fellowship.
everyone. It's me again. So my name is Julieta Saucedo. I am the Farm Education Coordinator. My pronouns are she, her. And I would talk to you about our 2022 La Semilla Farmer Fellowship Training Program, which titles Agroecological Farmers for a Hotter, Drier Future in the Chihuahuan Desert. And this is greatly funded by the USDA Beginning Farmer and Rancher Development Program. So with this fellowship, our intention is to support beginning farmers or those interested on taking the leap into the agrarian life in the Paso del Norte region. And we can go to the next one. We can go to the next slide. Yeah, there. So let's start with the focus of the program, which is mainly production and how farming can be an agent of change, right? So most of the things that we will circling around throughout the program are soil health, water saving and irrigation, crop rotation, food safety, farm planning, and the impact of our practice on collective healing and community care. So with soil health, we focus on how to keep our soils healthy in the Chihuahuan Desert for the sake of our crops. With water saving and irrigation systems, we focus on what are the most effective and efficient options we have in arid lands and how we and other farmers are overcoming drought. So with crop rotation, we focus on seasonality, annual production, perennial production, and the use of cover crops and everything to keep them alive. With food safety, we give part of the training required by FSMA, which is the Food Safety Modernization Act for small-scale farmers, and you become familiar with the practices as you harvest this and as you work. And with farm planning, we refer to how you exercise your practice from the layout to the design, to design your own systems, to selling your products and finding the markets for it. And the last but not the least is the impact of our practice on collective healing and community care. How are we as farmers creating movement and holding change, right? And so now we can go to the next slide. So how do we do it? What is the format of the program? For starters, this is a paid in-person part-time opportunity, because although it is a training program, we are aware that through that training, work is getting done, right? So you're getting paid. And it is a cohort system in order to create community and expand our desert agroecological network of farmers. And this means we are not selecting just individuals. We are selecting a collective, like an organism. We are a living organism that belongs to larger organisms. And the cohort will not be together at one site. A small group would be a La Semilla community farm, and then pairs will be placed at host sites, which is with other local farmers in the region. And there will be bi-weekly instruction, which it can be either in person or virtual, and it is divided in two, not because they are separated, they integrate, but just for the sake and make it easier, is agroecology as practice and agroecology as movement. And this instruction is going to be bi-weekly and is required for the fellows to attend them. And this means that the fellows will learn from guest speakers, site visits, and hands-on learning. There will also be 2 independent learning projects throughout the fellowship, one that will be production focused, and one that will be of a topic of the fellow's choice. So now we can go to the next slide. With that said, what are important upcoming dates to have in mind? So here we have February 7, which is the application deadline, I guess at 9 a.m. Because I start working at 9. So, and then we start our first round of interviews on the week of February 14th. So the interviews dates, they can be subject of change. Just keep that in mind, that perhaps this is not written in stone, but it will be like sometime after or at that week, right? A little after or that day. And at the week of February 21st, we hope to have our decision make to have on-site interviews. This is to know where the fellows are going to be placed at, which are on the host sites. And on the week of March 6th, we hope to send notice to applicants. And then the fellowship is going to start on the week of April 11th. And all applicants are required to be ready by then to start the fellowship. And yeah, so we can go to the next slide. So the application, so this is the application. This is how the application looks like. You do not need to have a Google account. I apologize for my dog, if anyone can hear him. And so yeah, this is how the application will look like. You don't need to have a Google account, but you do need to have an email address. Yeah, so, and also we want to show it here just so there is no confusion in the future. Yeah, like since we have 2 fellowships running, we can go to the next slide. And here is an example of the syllabus. These are just screenshots of the 2021 syllabus. Of course, it was way more extensive, but I just want to name that this was a very important document for us because it allowed us to share resources with the fellows that could be useful for them in the future or no. And then what else? That's it. You can make your questions later after Ruby finished. So now I'm going to hand it over to Ruby, and she's going to talk about the Cultural Fellowship.
Thank you so much, Julieta. The Farming Fellowship is amazing, y'all. I got to witness some of it, and from the last cohort, and it's a really wonderful opportunity. And it's rare to have a paid farming training, so it's a really wonderful opportunity. So I'll go on to the Chihuahuan Desert Cultural Fellowship. So it's the first time we're doing this, and it's a combination of 3 things. So direct support, in that we're providing grant-like funding to fellows to support their existing practice. And then regional cultural organizing. Why? Because also it's designed like a cohort, similarly to the Farming Fellowship. We're also looking to bring together a dynamic and complementary group of people to gather once a month to learn from each other and from guest artists, cultural workers, and advocates who have a land-based practice from this region and from other communities. And then the relationship building is really key to this effort. So, you know, being willing to be in relationship with the cohort, to share about your work, to be seen and known and part of a network. And then the storytelling piece involves documentation and uplifting of fellow stories and practice in various platforms, including our own La Semilla blog and social media, but also beyond that in other platforms that are local, regional, national. And so let's go on to the next slide. You can find the call for applications on our website, which Michelle recently dropped into the chat. And just click on the About Us section and then join our team. And if you scroll down past the farming fellowship, then you'll find the cultural fellowship, a paragraph about it in English with links to the call for applications, and then another link to the application, and then the same, but in Spanish. Let's go on to the next slide. So that document will have a lot of information. I'll go over some of it here and some extra possibly information. But in summary, the idea in this fellowship, like I said earlier, we see that there are people in the region that are already engaged in very powerful land-based cultural arts and advocacy work, often doing it just truly out of a labor of love with little or no financial support. And so the idea is to support people in the region like that who are already doing amazing things to do what they're already doing. We're not asking for anything new. And so we're supporting folks to incubate a project in the arts, culture, and or advocacy that uplifts the Chihuahuan Desert ecosystem, right? The diverse people, plants, animals, whatever it is, elements. Maybe you're working with water, with the river, or with a certain kind of plant, or a certain community, or a certain neighborhood. And so we're asking, so while the Farming Fellowship is a 6-month commitment, this one is a 4-month commitment, starting the first weekend of March and then ending in June. So we ask that in that time you advance or finish a project. So it's less outcome driven. I don't know if you've ever had other kinds of grants, or, but we're not necessarily requiring that you finish something. Maybe you're close to finishing something, and that's great. But also advancing something or incubating something is perfectly acceptable for the purpose of this fellowship. And really, again, knowing that a big part of it is also that that relationship building that'll happen in the monthly gatherings. So we'll have the grant style stipend, and that specifically means $1,500 a month of unrestricted funds for 4 months, totaling $6,000 per fellow. So you'll work on your own time. You won't be like assigned a schedule for the week or anything. You work on your own time. Again, like we're trying to support what people are already doing, right? But we do ask that you meet monthly on the dates that are listed here on the slide: March 4th, April 2nd, May 6th, and June 4th. And these fall on either the first Friday or Saturday of the month. These sessions will have an interpreter, so to translate from English into Spanish. And then the other piece is increasing the visibility of your work. So sharing part of your story and practice with us in the storytelling department, and possibly with guest storytellers. No, it's my son. I don't have a dog, but I have a playful child you might be hearing in the background. So sharing part of your story, right? It doesn't have to be all of your story. It doesn't have to be, I know that stories are precious, right? So whatever you feel comfortable sharing about you, about your practice, it can be a piece. It doesn't have to be everything. So we're trying not to be extractive about this, and really that it's about celebrating and uplifting the people of this region and their practice. It'll likely be maybe like a short interview, and maybe follow you on a day or two to see what you're doing and take some pictures, something like that. We can talk about it. We can figure it out together. And there's different tracks in the application that you'll see. You can click all of them, some of them, depending on what your project is, what your focus is. So we have foodways, which might include community cooks, chefs, seed savers, backyard growers. We have performing and literary arts. So that might include like theater folks, musicians, dancers, poets, writers. We have visual arts, so muralists, sculptors, illustrators, graphic artists, photographers, natural materials, folks that might work with natural fibers or plant dyes, an advocacy track, so food justice advocates, environmental justice advocates, and then we also have another type of practitioners or educators track. So if your practice is not represented by the tracks that we laid out, you can tell us, you know, just describe to us what your practice is. And then you also find in the application some 3 areas of alignment that are important to us in this fellowship. And one is that you have experience with and love of the Chihuahuan Desert ecosystem, that you have experience navigating border life, and that you have shared values of justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion that are anti-racist and anti-homophobic. So I am seeing the question in the chat, so I'll just take it now. What if our practice includes all of them? You can just select them all. Mm-hmm. It should let you select more than one or all of them. And then just a tip for the application, be as specific as you can. There's going to be a question that asks 2 questions. There's one that asks you about past projects, naming 1 to 3 past projects, and then there will be one that says, what are you planning in the near future? What project or projects are you planning to advance? So in that question, if you can be as specific as possible, and instead of just saying like, I want to learn more about this desert, and be more specific, like I'm writing a book about a certain thing, right? Or I'm going to be experimenting with plant dyes from these 3 plants. Right? Something very like as specific as you can be, to give us a sense of what you know, what you'll be doing in the next few months. There's no word limit. There's a suggestion of in the questions, it might say like in 1 to 2 paragraphs or in 4 paragraphs or less. So you don't have to write too much. You can write as, you know, as much as you need to let us know, but we're looking for, you know, kind of short, concise answers, kind of list. It can even be excuse me, it can even be like bubble points if you want. So that's that so far. Can 2 people apply as a group? I did think about this. I think that it's a really good question. I might have to follow up with you after, maybe post an answer. My immediate thought is that you might want to submit 2 applications and explain what each of you are bringing to the project. I know there are collectives out there. And so that's my initial thought. Let me see, I'll meditate on it right now. And I'll try to give you a more solid answer or a suggestion to follow up later. Okay, thank you. That's a really great question, right? Thinking collectively. So next slide. This is what the application looks like for the Cultural Fellowship. It's a JOT form. You'll be able to see all the questions on one screen. You just have to scroll down. There's only a few questions that are required. It'll have some other optional questions. We really are inviting people at different moments in the path, you know? Maybe you're very experienced, or maybe you're starting out. We're looking for diversity, right? And so don't be discouraged from applying if you feel like you're just starting out. If you have a solid idea or a project, please do apply. As long as you're 18 or over, and this feels like a fit for you, please do apply. So this is what the Cultural Fellowship application looks like. It's green. Okay, next slide, please. So you might be asking yourself, so why are both applications in bilingual, English and Spanish, but not the programs themselves? And the response to that is that for the cultural fellowship, since it's only 4 months and we're only meeting 4 times as a cohort, it's doable for us to bring on an interpreter to provide English to Spanish translation. But for the farming fellowship, because you're out in the field, you're paired with different mentors in the region, it's not possible at this time for us to do that. So instruction in the farming fellowship is primarily in English, and the cultural fellowship, the dialogues will be primarily in English, but we will have interpreter available into Spanish. The next one. Can I apply to both fellowships? You might be asking yourself. In this case, we would suggest that you really connect with yourself and think about where you're wanting to take your practice in the next few months, and to make a choice going in. Both of these fellowships will be offered again. There will be other cohorts in the future, so it's not your one and only chance. So you might think, well, I want to advance this first and then that. You can technically apply to both. If you do apply to both, and then if you do make it to an interview, and if you are invited, if you do seem like a match for both, we will at that point ask you to choose one of them. So we would suggest that you decide up front, but technically you could. So next question, question, anticipated question slide. So La Semilla Food Center is based in Anthony, New Mexico, and we're able to set our own COVID, organizations are tasked with setting their own COVID protocols in the state of New Mexico. You will find the COVID policies laid out in the applications themselves. We wear masks, we socially distance, and we do require proof of vaccination for fellows. We also know that these plans that we have are subject to change given, COVID conditions. So we might shift programming to Zoom if needed. In the cultural fellowship, 3 out of the 4 meetings are expected to be outdoors if weather is permitting. And then we'll have 1 Zoom meeting, but always keeping it nimble, right? That's what these last couple of years have taught us. So that's what I'll share on that for now. Next question. I think we're ready for your questions. I do have one in my notes that has come up from folks, which is, can I apply if I live out of state? And truly we're asking for applicants to be residents of the Paso del Norte region. So that means Southern New Mexico, Far West Texas, El Paso County, and then Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua is also part of the region.
I see a question in the chat. I'm going to read it in parts and answer like each part. Yeah. So in the farming practice, you have heirloom seeds. Yes, some. We also do seed saving, and we try to use open source seeds. And if so, what seeds plants do you all work with? I don't know if this answers the question, but we have winter and summer crops, and from the winter crops, we have from leafy greens to roots. And we have fruit trees, we have from the summer crops, we have from tomatoes and peppers to squash to corn. And we also have a milpa system, which is sunflowers, corn, beans, manzanilla, is a wide diversity field, a very diverse small quadrant that we have of that. And what does it mean to become a host site? So the host sites are experienced farmers or farmers that are already working in the area, and they already sell their produce. They have already found their markets. They've been having a consistent production throughout a few years, and in those we have a few potential host sites that La Semilla already has a relationship with, and then if we see that the fellows are interested in a certain practice and we have a relationship with a farmer that is focused in that practice already, then we reach out to that farmer and try to place that fellow there so that person can have the learning that they need, right, and that they want. And what can a host site expect from La Semilla? But the farmer mentors, they do receive a stipend, and they also, and we expect from them to also lead at least one day of a site visit with the whole cohort. And they also have the fellows. Yeah, like in this case will be 2. Last year was just 1, but they get the fellow there to assist with the day-to-day tasks. So if one becomes a fellow for either the farming or the cultural program, can we still meet with the farmer programs if one is accepted? So the answer to that is yes. We are going to make available the sessions from the farming fellowship that are pertinent to the cultural fellowship. We are going to open them for the cultural fellowship to join, the cultural fellowship fellows to join it, and also like sometimes the fellows from the farming fellowship are going to join the other. Yeah. I see another one that is, could you go over the schedule for the group agroecology classes for the farming fellowship? I want to make sure I don't have a schedule conflict with my current job. Okay, so this is the schedule that we foresee for this year is every other week. The instruction is every other week. The instruction is Wednesday from 10:30 to 1 and Friday from 10:30 to 1. But the regular schedule for hands-on learning, at least at La Semilla Community Farm, is from 8 to 1. And the farm manager can send me a direct message if I'm wrong. But yes, from 8 to 1, 7 to 1. Yeah, but see, I was wrong. 7 to 1, Tuesday to Friday. Yeah.
I'm going to come back to the question about can 2 people apply as a group? And I guess that would also count for other collectives that are more than 2 people for the cultural fellowship. And I do recommend that you each apply, you name your group or your collective as part of your application, and you share like what specifically you contribute. You know, we never know who's going to apply and how the cohort organism will come together, right? And knowing that it's in the cultural fellowship, you'll see a question that asks if you're not selected for this cohort, do you want us to keep your application on file for the subsequent cohorts? If you'd like, you can click yes on that. And then if for any reason one of you doesn't make it, you might be making it into the next one. And so the next Cultural Fellowship cohort is expected to start in August. And then we'll have even one more after that in 2023, probably February or January 2023. So that's what I would recommend to you, to apply, to both apply and name your, name your collective project.
Let me add something very quick. I don't know if I mentioned, but the farmer mentors do receive a stipend for serving as mentors, and a little correction on the schedule. It is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Fridays. No work on Monday and Thursday. Yeah. And now that I'm here, there is another question. Can we send images or applications, for example, buildings, land visuals, or design ideas?
In the Cultural Fellowship application, you will have an optional section towards the end for anyone that does have some kind of portfolio or uploads. So there'll be an opportunity to upload there if you do have images. It's not required, but it's welcome if you do have it. Likewise, we didn't specifically ask for like social media handles, but if you have like a lot of your work in a specific social media account that we should know, you could just put that in there as well. Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Any other questions? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that. If you have more questions, if you don't want anyone to see your question, it's okay. It's totally valid. You can send your question directly to Michelle, like in the chat. You can either direct message Michelle, Ruby, or me, and we will see it. We will read your question out loud, but we won't say your name. So we have another question. Will a file folder with images suffice a portfolio?
Yes, definitely. Yes, you can you share projects you've worked on in the past? Yes, definitely. There will be a question that asks you to like narratively tell us about 1 to 3 projects you've worked on in the past for the Cultural Fellowship. And then the other question about upcoming projects that you're wanting to advance or finish. And yes, definitely, you can share, you can upload images or anything about past projects in that optional section and towards the end of the application.
This question sounds like it wasn't for me, but also if anyone is wondering, interested in the Farming Fellowship, we are not requiring for you to send your resume or anything, but there is a section in the application where it says that you can send it over with you can include your resume, your letter of intent, and your references, and probably that will also shortcut. Like if you get selected for interviews, then on the interviews we don't have to ask you for your references. We already have them on file. Yeah.
Projects that La Semilla has partnered with in the past. Oh, were you asking us to share about projects La Semilla has partnered with in the past? Okay. And meaning cultural projects or farming? Yes, okay. Yeah, so we can go back a little bit too to the, Michelle, if we could go back to the slides on the cultural pieces. there's a couple. I'll mention in the fall of 2020, we held story gathering sessions with people from across the region, people who we've been in relationship through Las Semillas' different programs. And so that included, farmers, school teachers, youth, family people, all kinds of people. And actually that's a photo of one of the story gathering sessions there in the Zoom squares. And those, that was a collaboration with two muralists. So Kristen Apodaca and Al Woody attended those story gathering sessions. We had one in English and one in Spanish. And based on those stories, they developed mural concepts at the farm and at Bowie High School. We'll be sharing actually some of those stories pretty soon as we come up on the 2-year anniversary of lockdown, because a lot of the stories also had to do with COVID impacts on local foodways and also the resilience of people, right, who had backyard gardens and how they were able to manage. And then going one slide back up to the zine, this is a project that we did in collaboration with Zeke Peña. And it was a 2-year project that included story gathering, like archival research, and researching the history of US agriculture policy and its impact on local communities as seen from our region. So it jumps from past to present, from local to national, and it has different folks quoted. We talked to different community members representing different communities, farming communities in the region, to include their perspectives as well. And so it's a really wonderful learning opportunity. And so there's a lot of stories in there, and you can find that zine digitally or in print version on our website under the shop section. It's on a by donation basis, so including $0. So you can access it there, or you can read a flippable version on the La Semilla website, but on the storytelling page, there's a flippable sort of version there, flippable PDF. So those are the most recent ones. You're welcome.
There's another question. Mateo was asking, can we include work we've done with La Semilla already?
Yes.
And then Christina is asking, is the Cultural Fellowship exploring different topics of our region? Are they required to be land-based?
Yeah, I think, we're looking for that intersection, between humans and the rest, because we're part of the ecosystem, right? But also like the rest of the ecosystem. So you might be working on a work of art that's inspired by the plants of a specific plant, right? Or a specific community too. Or you might be, I don't know, you might be working with elders in your community, like that know about plants, and maybe you're doing portraits on them or something like that. So that intersection of earth-based practice and culture and arts advocacy. You're welcome. We're really excited. Like, we know how we see the creativity, we're really excited to hear what you're up to, and to assemble 3 cohorts in the next year and a half for this cultural fellowship. And I know the farm team is also really excited about meeting the applicants for the farming fellowship. We're really grateful to be in community with y'all and learning with you. we might start wrapping up in the interest of time here. I know it's 6 o'clock. We have our contact information here. If any questions come up, you can email hiring@lasemillafoodcenter.org. The website there is already in the chat, but it's also here on the slide, lasemillafoodcenter.org, and then about, and then join our team. One more question, sure. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, Julieta covered her so nicely. I was like, oh, I should have done a key dates one. It's very similar. It's very similar to hers, to the farm teams. So the one that she shared just now. So we have the same deadline. So different application, different fellowship, but same deadline. February 7th at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time is the deadline for the application. We'll be scheduling interviews for the week of February 14th, and should be notifying folks sometime between the 22nd and 28th of February who are accepted into this first cohort, because we are starting on March 4th for our first gathering, and we'll have 4 gatherings. The first gathering for the Cultural Fellowship is a sort of introductions about the fellowship, about each other, about each of your practices. And then the 2 gatherings in between are with guest speakers, learning about local land and histories and cultural practices, and learning about other people who have land-based arts and culture practices. And then in the final session in June, we'll be sharing updates of your projects. You might share a piece of a performance or like a cooking demo, or show us what you've been working on in some way. So it could just be a verbal presentation, or it could be a sort of a demo or a reading or a performance. So you'll have about 20 minutes. And that's the timeline for this first cohort. The second one, we should be starting in August. So we'll have more details for that one in the near future. Yeah, I did mean to invite, somebody messaged me. If anybody does want to unmute, if you feel more comfortable asking a question with your voice, you're welcome to do that. I don't want to leave without offering that. Your little square will appear in the recording. So if you don't want your image to appear, you can keep your camera off.
I have an answer for a question. It was if you can suggest a host site that you would like to be placed at. So the shorter answer would be no, but yes, you can. I mean, you can. You always can. The idea is that because we as organization, we already have certain relationships with farmers in the region, and it's not just a few, right? Like it is a diverse amount of farmers that we have a relationship with, and that we trust. Which is trust is the most important part to give someone the ability to mentor someone else, right? Like that is a lot of that. Sounds very simple, but there are a lot of complexities that can happen between choosing a mentor and placing someone with that mentor, right? So yeah, so the short answer is no, but yes, you can suggest them. Perhaps that is a farmer that we already have a relationship with. You never know, right? But yeah, but ideally we will place fellows with mentors that we already know.
I have a question.
Yes.
If can we include, if we decide to do the or if we do an application, can we do like a virtual, like a visual application included with our application? Just because words sometimes don't capture, and sometimes it's hard. So I was just wondering if you guys accept it, and if so, like how long could it be if you did? Thank you.
I'll respond for the cultural one. I think yes, you can definitely do that, and if you like, you can respond in the application, like see attached video. If you don't, you don't even have to type everything in there. Just I don't know what our capacity of like file size to receive like a video. If maybe you could put it as an unlisted YouTube link or something like that, or like a Google Drive link. That you include in somewhere in the application, either in the responses themselves to the questions or in the optional question section. We can definitely just make sure you cover the points in the questions in your audio or video of your upload. And so in terms of length, like I would say maybe like 3 to 5 minutes to cover just like who you are, what you've done, what you're planning to do, how you align, and just like a summary of your responses to the questions, the main questions in the application.
So we are at 6:07 already. I think because we are a collective, we are going to let you go and continue with your lives that most likely you have, and they're way more entertaining than being here sitting in front of the screen. So thank you so much for joining. So remember that this session was recorded. So for if you know someone that is like, shoot, man, I miss it, you can tell them, no worries, man, they record it. And then, yeah, it will be accessible for for people. The deadline for the fellowships is, just a reminder, is February 7 at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Encourage people, all the people that you know that might benefit from it, that could, like, yeah, either in the cultural side or on the farming, applied farming side. Yeah, feel free to spread the word, and hope to read you in the applications soon.
Yes, thank you so much. We will be uploading this recording to our La Semilla Food Center YouTube channel as soon as we can. And if we can get it together, we will have captions in Spanish as well, a sibling version of the video with Spanish language captions. Thank you so much for your time and your interest and your great questions. Thank you. We're excited to get to know you more, or for the first time, all of it. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody.